What are the 10 safest countries in the world for expats in 2022? Austria, 95% of expats feel safe in Austria. Canada with its relatively low level of crime. Denmark has a low crime rate and there's almost no risk of natural disaster. Iceland has a very low level of crime, and high levels of equality. Finland, 99% of expats feel safe there, that compares with 84% globally. Japan, crimes targeting foreigners are uncommon, according to security organization OSAC. New Zealand currently has extremely strict rules on entry due to COVID-19. Portugal ranks highly for safety and expats are exceptionally content there. Singapore, crime is clamped down on hard here, and firearms are strictly controlled. Switzerland boasts a low crime rate, a law-abiding population and high levels of equality. These are the safest countries in the world. Austria. The Supreme Court of Sweden is the third and final in all civil and criminal cities in Sweden. Appeal case Former appeal case Supreme Court 16 Justice Councillors Government. You have to by law in a virgin case. Swedish police. The National Task Force is a rapid intervention in the management of investment in national criminal investigations. As for the Swedish Security Service, responsibilities include counter-espionage, counter-terrorist activities, and the protection of sensitive people and structures. According to a 2005 criminal victimization survey of 1,201 people, Sweden has an above-average rate of crime compared to other EU countries. Sweden has a high or above-average rate of attacks, sexual assaults, hate crimes and sex fraud, while it has low levels of burglary, car theft and drug problems. As for bribery, it is rare. Canada. The Constitution of Canada is the supreme law of the country and consists of written text and unwritten agreements. The Constitution Act of 1867, known as the British North American Act before 1982, emphasized governance on the basis of parliamentarians and the division of powers between the federal and provincial governments. The Statute of Westminster in 1931 granted it full self-government, while the Constitution Act 1982 terminated all legislative relations with the United Kingdom, added a constitutional amendment formula, and added the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees fundamental rights and freedoms that no government can usually override. although a clause in the charter allows Parliament federal and provincial parliaments bypass certain sections for 5-year terms. Initial contact between European Canadians, First Nations, and Inuit was relatively peaceful. The Crown and Indigenous peoples began interacting during the period of European colonization. Created numbered treaties, the Indians Act, the Constitutional Act of 1982 and the Statutes of the Courts. A series of 11 treaties were signed between the Aborigines of Canada and the Crown of Canada between 1871 to 1921. These treaties are agreements with the Government of Canada administered by Canadian Aboriginal law and overseen by the Minister of Indian Affairs and Northern Development. The role of treaties was reaffirmed in Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982, which recognizes and affirms existing treaties with Indigenous peoples and their rights. These rights can include the provision of services such as healthcare and tax exemption. The demarcation of the legal and political framework for First Nations in Canada was confirmed in 2005 by the First Nations Agreement and the Federal First Political Crown. Canada's judiciary plays an important role in interpreting laws and has the power to overturn laws that violate the Constitution. The Supreme Court of Canada is the highest court and makes final rulings, and has been chaired by Beverly McLaughlin, Chief Justice, first of all female, since 2000. The Supreme Court has 9 members appointed by the Governor-General on the advice of the Prime Minister and Minister of Justice. All judges are appointed at the higher and appellate levels after consultation with non-governmental statutory bodies. The federal government also appoints high court judges at the provincial and territorial levels. Common law prevails everywhere except in Quebec, where civil law prevails. Criminal law is an exclusively federal responsibility and prevails throughout Canada. Law enforcement, including criminal courts, is the responsibility of the provinces. But in rural areas of all provinces except Ontario and Quebec, the RCMP is contracted. Denmark. Denmark's mixed economy is characterized by an above-average European standard of living and a large amount of free trade. Denmark ranks 16th in the world in terms of GDP, while it ranks 5th in purchasing power parity per capita. According to the World Bank Group, Denmark's labor market is the most flexible in Europe and the policy is called flexible security. It uses recruitment, dismissal and the search for a new job. Denmark has a workforce of about 2.9 million people. Denmark also has the 4th highest percentage of university degree holders in the world. GDP per hour worked was 13th in 2009. Denmark has the world's lowest income inequality according to the United Nations and the world's highest minimum wages according to the International Monetary Fund. As of June 2010, the unemployment rate was 6.6%, which is below the EU average of 9.6%. Support for free trade is high, as in a 2007 survey 76% answered that globalization is a good thing. 70% of Danish business dealings are within the European Union. Denmark has the 9th highest per capita exports in the world. Major exports include machinery, animals, foodstuffs, chemicals, and oil and gas. Denmark is a source of food and energy and for several years ran a balance of payments surplus while struggling to get rid of about 39% of its gross national product as external debt, or the equivalent of more than 300 billion kroner. Added to the economic importance are the marine properties, which cover an area of more than 105,000 square kilometers, 40,000 square miles. Iceland. Iceland is a parliamentary republic with representative democracy. The Icelandic Parliament, often, was established in 1845 as an advisory body to the Danish king, which at the time was seen as a re-establishment of the council, which had been established in 1930 on the Commonwealth period and suspended in 1799. It is thus arguably the oldest parliamentary democracy in the world. Parliament has 63 members who are elected for a maximum term of 4 years. The president is elected by popular vote for a term of 4 years. With no term limits, the government and local councils are elected separately from presidential elections every 4 years. The position of head of state is largely ceremonial, but he has the power to block laws approved by Parliament and put them to a national referendum. The head of government is the Prime Minister, who constitutes the executive branch in addition to his cabinet. The president appoints the cabinet after parliamentary elections, usually through negotiation between the leaders of Iceland's political parties. They also discuss the composition of the cabinet and the distribution of ministerial portfolios, provided that the formed government has a parliamentary majority in parliament. When the parties cannot form a government within a reasonable time, the president of Iceland appoints the cabinet, which has not happened since the founding of the republic in 1944. However, in 1942 the governor of Iceland Sven Björnsson, appointed by the House of Representatives in 1941, formed an inappropriate government, parliamentary. The ruler of Iceland practically possessed the powers and office of the president, and Sven Björnsson became the country's first president in 1944. Iceland's governments have often been coalitions of 2 or more parties, in which no single political party has ever obtained a majority of seats in parliament during the republic. The powers of the President of the Republic are the subject of controversy among jurists in Iceland. It seems that many provisions of the constitution give the President important powers, but some other provisions point to something different. In 1980, the Icelanders elected Vigdís Finnbogadóttir as president, becoming the first in the country's history. She retired from her position in 1996. Finland. The judicial system in Finland is a civil law system divided between courts of ordinary civil and criminal jurisdiction and administrative courts specialized in litigation between individuals and the public administration. Finnish law is based on Swedish law and more broadly on civil law or Roman law. The judicial system of civil and criminal courts consists of district courts, regional courts of appeal, and the Supreme Court. The administrative judicial branch consists of administrative courts and the Supreme Administrative Court. In addition to the ordinary courts, there are some special courts in certain branches of the administration. There is also the Supreme Court of Legal Accountability to bring criminal charges against certain high-ranking positions. About 92% of the population trusts Finnish security institutions. Also, the overall crime rate in Finland is not high within the European Union. Some types of crime are above average. With the highest murder rate in Western Europe, crime is common among the less educated and is often committed by drunk people. A daily fine system is also applied for offences such as speeding. Finland fought successfully against rampant corruption in the 1970s and 1980s. For example, economic reforms and EU membership introduced stricter conditions for open bidding and abolished many public monopolies. The country today has very few corruption charges, and Transparency International ranks Finland as one of the least corrupt countries. Also, Finnish public records are among the most transparent in the world.